And here we go, Alexander the Great. Macedonia profecti. Profecti is in the plural, so it means having set out, plural amount of set out, and this is in the ablative and not the accusative, so it must be from Macedonia. Ultra Euphraten, this is a Greek accusative, so beyond the Euphrates, in medias hostibus, in the middle of enemy, novum imperium aspernantibus, so this in medias hostibus aspernantibus are all the ablatives going together. So they're in the middle of enemies who are spurning the new imperium, the new ruler basically. So they set out from Macedonia, they've gone beyond the Euphrates, are in the middle of enemies who didn't like the new power. Kernabent, they were discerning, say themselves to be destitutos, abandoned. Sine certe, sine means without, or takes the ablative, so without a certain, regus is genitive, heredity. So this ablative goes without a certain heir, regus of the king, sine hereditae, without an heir, regni of the kingdom, publicus vires ad se quemque tracturum. This is a future tracturum. So quemquem, each one would be tracturam, trying to attract or draw. Publicus vires, accusative plurals, the public strength ad se towards himself. This would be each person. Bella deinde civilia. Deinde means then. So next, Bella civilia. This is a civil war. It's plural because bellum is a neuter, so bella is the plural. Quae secuta sunt. Again, we know it's plural. Sunt's plural. Secuta is in line with the Bella civilia. So then the civil wars which would follow, secuta, mentibus, with their minds or to their minds, augorabantor. They were auguring or predicting or foreseeing. Auguro is the first conjugation, and there's also the deponent version of it. Iterum, again, non de regno Asiae, which is the genitive, not concerning the king of Asia, or the sed de rege, but concerning the king, ipsis, for themselves, sanguinem esse fundendum. So esse and fundendum makes it a, what do you call it, passive periphrastic or whatever, so it means it must be done. So, blood must be poured out, fundendum, again, not for the king of Asia, but who would be the king ipsis for them. Novus vulneribus, ablative or dative plurals, veteres rumpendus cicatrices, which is scars. So we're looking at here, old scars, veteres cicatrices, rapendas, again, like fundendum, so the old scars must be burst open with new wounds. Sens and debiles. Sens is the old man, the debiles are the weak or debilitated. Modo petita missione, now having sought their remission or their dismissals from the justo rege, from the just king, or as the Loeb calls it, the legitimate king. So when Alexander was alive, they'd been seeking their dismissal. Now, nunc, morituris, they're about to die, plural in the OS accusative. Pro potentienta, for forsitan. Forsitan means perhaps, it's an adverb. Now they're about to die, perhaps, for the power, the potentia, satellitus alicutis ignobilis. For an unknown alicuis, other person who is a satellite, basically. So these are some lesser kings, the satellites usually just hang around the powerful people. So, has cogitations. It's the accusative. So, with these cogitations, these thoughts, volventibus, rolling over in their minds. Again, it's plural. So, they were rolling over these cogitations in their minds. Nox, which is night in the nominative. It's supervented, which usually means arrived unexpectedly, but it looks like night arrived. Auxited, there's the qui, meaning end. And the terror increased. While they were thinking these things over, night arrived. The Millites, the soldiers, vigilabanting, they were being vigilant in armis with their arms. So they were armed soldiers keeping vigil. Babyloni, so the Babylonians, alius e muris, some from the walls, alius others, culmine, which is the peak, sui, quisqui, so here's each one. So others, each one on his own culmine, on the own peak of his roof, tecti, they were prospectabanting. They were looking out around, quasi as if, Curtiora, which is a comparative, so they can be more certain. Visurae, again, the eyes means plural. They're looking for future things. So they were prospectabanting. They were looking out from the peak of their roofs so they could be more certain of what was going on. They wanted to see what was happening. Short sentences. So, nec quisquam lumina audabat accendere. As we know, audabat means daring, and it takes the infinitive. So neither was anyone daring to light accendere, their lumina, their lamps. Et, and quia, because, oculurum, genitive plural, of the eyes, and because the use of their eyes was cessabat, had ceased, because it's now night time, as we know, and they didn't dare use their lanterns. The fremitus vocisque, so the groans and the voices, captabant, they captured oribus with their ears. So they wanted to know what was happening, and they could only basically use their ears to hear what was going on. Ac, and plerumque. Plerumque means generally, it's an adverb. Generally, teriti. So again, it's plural past passive. So they were terrified, vano meto, in empty fear or in a vain fear. Per obscuras semitas, the semitas are pathways, usually the streets, so obscure streets, so through few dark streets probably. Alius ali, so alius means some people, aliu means to another people. Or cursente, so it's a present participle plural, so alius some were running into ali other people, and they were terrified, they're going through dark streets. Invicum, and in turn, that's a adverb. Suspecti and soliciti ferabantur. So they were they were suspecting the people that they would run into, and they were bearing solicity, which is anxieties, basically. We'll have a daily dictionary word for semita. It's a first declension in the top 20,000 words. A narrow way footpath or path. The antonym is a via. So yeah, it's the paths, the streets. Okay, Perse, Persians in plural. Comis suemore, suemores in their mores, in their custom. They had detonsised their comis. So these are all going together. Perse comis detonsis. The Persians have having cut, detonsed, their comis, which is their locks or their hair, in their own custom. In lugubrae veste. This is a mourning vestments or clothing. Lugubrae looks as adjectives do of the third declension, as they have I stems in the dative and ablative. And cum conjubus, with their spouses, their wives, ac libris, and their children. So here they were in their mourning gear with their wives and children. Non ut victorum, it's as simple as, not as a victor, not as people who are beaten. And modo ut hostem, and now as an enemy. Said ut, but as gentis suis, of their own race, a justissimum regem, a most just king of their own race. So Alexander, they weren't thinking of it as their victor, as the one who beat them and as an enemy, but a most just king of their own race. And vero, it's another word for moreover or but. Lugabant, they were mourning with desiderio, which is a longing. Axuiti, so and, accustomed in the plural, and as they were accustomed sub rege vivere, to live under a king, non alium qui imperator ipsis, as not another qui who was emperor giving orders to them or was ruling ipsis themselves. Dignatorem, this is the accusative of a comparative, fuisse confidabantur. So they were confessing, fuisse, to have non alium. No one else was more digniorum, more worthy, who would rule themselves, they confessed. Nec murus urbis, neither in the walls of the city, luctus was their mourning, I think that's a fourth declension, was continebatur. So neither was their mourning contained within the walls of the city. Said, but the proximum region, the nearby regions, ab ear, from ear, the city is a female in Latin. So in the nearby regions, and deinde, then a magnum part, which is a great part, Asia, genitive of Asia. Cis, it's a preposition used, it means on this side. Euphraten, that's a Greek accusative. So on this side of the Euphrates, tantai mali pharma pervaseret. So tantai means such. Mali pharma is the rumours or reports. Mali is meaning these bad rumours or the report of this evil had pervaded as far as this side of the Euphrates. Ad dare, ad takes the accusative, so we haven't found an accusative yet. Quoque means also matrem, okay? That's mother, and it's accusative. So ad matrem, to the mother, Darius, of Darius. Also, celata, quickly, it pelata esset. So this report of the bad news was pelated or carried to the mother of Darius quickly. Ab scissor ergo veste. So ergo's therefore, having scissored up her vestments, so she rent her clothing or tore them up, quem induta, right, which she'd induted, which she was wearing. So she rent her clothes, ripped them up, which she was wearing, and sumsided legubrum, so she took up her mourning clothes, laceratis qui crinibus, and with her hair lacerated or tore out, humai is a locative for the ground, corpus means body, abicarit, and she threw a body on the ground, on the humai. Ad sitabating ei to her, so sitting next to her was an altera ex neptibus, which means one from her granddaughters. Is that it? Nupa, recently, amissum, having lost her festation, cui nupsrat, to who, that's a demonstrative pronoun in the dative, nupsrat means had married. So sitting next to her is one of her granddaughters who had recently lost her phasian, who she'd been married to. And Lugans, it's a present participle in the nominative, she was mourning proprius qui causes, dolorous in communi maestita retractaba. And so she was mourning for her own causes. Propria means belonging to yourself or belonging to whoever the subject is. So she's mourning for her own causes in this dolorous, in this pain. But she was drawn back. She was retracted into a communal maestia, into communal mourning now. Sed omnium suorum mala Sisygambus una capiabat. So, but Sisygambus was capiabat, and she took all this evil of all of her own, una, as one person alone. She alone had took this evil of her own people. She had taken it in illa, so she of her own people, and she Neptium of her granddaughter, Vicium in turn, fleabatting, was weeping. Recens dolor, this recent grief or pain was at even revocaverating the praeterita. This recent pain had recalled even that which had passed by. Praeterita means passing by. It was in the past. Crederes, you would believe, modo omissum, that just now she had a missum Darius. She had just lost Darius. Et parita, and equally, misere duorum filorum. And she was in the wretchedness or the misery of two sons. Exequias esse ducendus. So ducendus esse means it's a gerundive with the exequies funeral rites. And so now she must lead these funerary rites parita equally as if of two sons, as if Alexander was a son. Flebat simul mortuos vivosqui. So she was weeping same time for the mortos, the dead, and the vivos, and the living. Quem enim. Enim's for, quem is whom, the relative pronoun. Who peluarum acturum esse curum. So who would be in the future taking care of her daughters, of the girls? Quem alium futurum esse Alexandrum. For whom would in the future would be another Alexander. And esse is the common thing there. So whom would be futurum esse? Who would be another Alexander? Iterum, again. Esse se captus. They, say themselves, would be captives again. Iterum, and again, exit esse regnum. They would lose the kingdom, or they would lose their royal rank, basically. Qui, who, mortuo Daria, with Darius dead, ipses tuita reperisse, okay, and a semicolon. They had found, repisserade, someone who would, qui is who, tuitor, which is the opponent of the second conjugation, who would watch over ipses them. So with Darius said they had found someone who would look after them. But qui, who post Alexandrum after Alexander, respicaret would this is just basically spicio with ray put in front of it. So who would they now find to look after themselves? Utiqui non reperturus, that's female again. So especially they would not find someone who would look after them. Subabat, what was the subject? What was going on? Inter hac. So amongst these things, what was going on in the animum, in the mind? Well, we've got 80 suos fratris, 80 brothers, eodem day, on the same day, by Occo, a most savage king, ab Occo savissimo, this is just the ablative, Trucidatos had been cut down, 80 brothers, ad iectum quis strage, and added to this strags, or this slaughter, tot filiorum patrum, the father of so many of these sons. So this guy, did he have 80 sons, and he was pretty fruitful? E septem libris, from the 7 libris, I guess it means sons here, but it can mean children, from the 7 sons, quos, which, that's male, 7 sons which, genuissid ipsa, which she herself had a genuissid, which she had given birth to, unum super esse, one survived, was remaining. And we're just about done. Ipsum Darium, Darius himself, florisse, that's the infinitive of the past, he had flourished, paulispa, adverb, for a little while, Darius himself flourished for a little while, ut, so that, posset, he was able to be extinguished, to die, so rather cruelly, crudelius. Or sometimes we use that ut as in order that he had survived, he had flourished for a little while, in order that he would just meet a rather cruel death.